Cool. Let's go ahead and get started, everyone. We have a lot to cover today, and I'm so excited to have you join us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Playbooks. We do this twice a month, and today's edition of Power Playbooks is an exciting one. Before we jump in, I want to introduce myself. My name is Sarita. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and I am the co-host of our Power Playbooks webinar. And today I have a lovely co-host. It's normally me and the wonderful Vija Williams, who we joke and we call Vopra. She is the best interviewer and question asker out there. She had a conflict today, and stepping in for Vija and an amazing co-host this week is Alivia Lesinski. Alivia is the Senior Director of Real Estate Operations for Place based in Bellingham, and we're so excited to have her. We coined her alter title as just Operations Goddess. So it's the perfect topic for her to join in and sub as co-host. Thank you, Alivia, and welcome.
So happy to be here.
Awesome. We're excited. And so now I have the honor of introducing our guests. We have Karl Isenburg and Sherrie Travers. They're from Scottsdale, Arizona, and they are a dynamic duo in terms of a team lead and operations partner. And we are going to dive into operations mastery, how they work together, how their partnership is, and everything you would ever want to know on how to have a smooth operations team lead relationship. And that we're going to learn so much from them. So welcome, Karl and Sherrie. Welcome to the party.
Thank you.
Awesome to have you. I think the first question is really just to introduce you to our viewers in terms of your team and your business. Either of you can take this, Karl or Sherrie. Tell us a little bit about your business. However, whatever metric you want to use in terms of units, production, and I'm interested in where you're at today, but also like the follow on is what has your trajectory been in terms of how you got to where you are. So whoever wants to start, let's dive into what your business looks like.
Sure, I'll take that if you want, Sherrie. I know Sherrie's always eager to talk, right? So
we'll make sure she talks. Don't worry.
So Karl Isenburg here, and I've been selling real estate here in Arizona. It'll be 25 years in August, and have had success in some years not so much, because I've been through several crashes and changes in the industry. And the best 19 years of those 25 have been with my business partner, Sherrie Travers. And we started as me a solo, and me with an assistant. As she moved into operations, our personalities are separate and different. And we would take each our portion, and very successful with a small 2-man person. And then we tried to get on the team bike and fell off a few times. And we were committed to moving forward. And from a trajectory point of view, even with all those years of experience, we found ourselves a year ago going, wow, this isn't great, because we weren't really doing everything like we normally did. So we finally had a line in the sand and said, let's get back to what makes us tick. What are our operational goals? What is our playbook, as what you've got here? And we have seen year to date, our team's production is up 200%. And we are very profitable or hitting our metrics, which I think that's where Alivia says, I like your numbers. We'd like to talk to you.
Sounds great. Well, I don't know about you, but it was hard for me to even pay attention after he said 19-year partnership. That is such a rare gift to be able to work with someone hand in hand, close, I was going to say like attached at the hip through ups and downs. I'm sure you guys have had some great stories and many experiences to share, but 19 years in this business, in a business that every year is probably more than dog years. It's a really compelling thing. And so I just want to commend you on such the longevity of your partnership. That's so awesome. It hasn't always been roses, right? You guys, we're through the short sale period, REOs. Talk a little bit about just how you first started out.
As a partnership?
Yes, as a partnership.
I was overwhelmed. I had a file folder, was unwilling to get rid of it, but knew I needed I needed an assistant, hired Sherrie Travers. Got her up and running, market crashed. And as that same person that likes to hold on to things says, okay, well, thanks. It's been a nice year and a half, 2 years. Have a nice life, and I'll see you later. And Sherrie didn't accept that. How did you react to that, Sherrie?
I don't. Well, first of all, he makes it sound really smooth. Karl, even in the beginning, refused help because he was very strong in that I could do it myself, which I think we all think we can do this ourselves, but we do need people in our careers and our lives, and we need people to help us. I needed him. I know I needed him because my negotiation, it just sucks. But I'm a very organized person. And not that he's not, but he just needs help with his planning every now and then. And that is something that I am really good at. And I'm not bragging on that. It's what I live and breathe is planning. Like we don't leave for the day unless we know what's going on tomorrow. Now he might try to sneak out and say, I'll see you tomorrow. And I go, oh, no. What's on our calendar for tomorrow? We've got to know what we're doing and are we ready for it? So
it's okay to say that my organizational skills suck, Sherrie.
But so I always like the things of filling in the forms, every little detail, where Karl will go, oh, I hate doing that. Well, there's things I don't necessarily like to schmooze the clients that are upset over what didn't happen or did happen. That can be a challenge. And he has a very special way with clients. So our personalities are such that I think somebody said it earlier as I was having computer issues, at least we don't have bad moments at the same time. And that's true. We usually don't. One's usually off, the other one's not, and we're leveling each other out.
Well, so to answer the question back when I said, oh, by the way, we're done. Have a nice life. It's been great, but I don't have any money because the market has crashed. Her brain took a different approach. She goes, wait. This is a foreclosure business. I love the stuff of it. You hate doing BPOs. You hate doing that. So Sherrie would do her 8 or 9 BPOs a day and made a living. And we developed a short sale business. It took a little bit of time to get there. But every time a crisis hits, we find a solution with our different personalities. I don't pay. What are our DISC profiles, Sherrie?
I'm an SC. I think I've moved my D up a little, DI, and he is a DICS.
Yeah. So yeah,
Sherrie,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Sarita. Sherrie, when you were just chatting there, you were talking about how Karl had a hard time giving things up, and we talked about this earlier as well as we were preparing. And I'd love to hear what are some of the ways that you might recommend if an operations person is really trying to be a higher level partner to their team lead. What are some of the ways you recommend they help take some of those things while making that still feel like a positive experience?
I think it's a huge trust issue. And Karl, when he first hired me, said he wanted me to be an extension of him. That in everything that I did, I mean, that's not in a negative way. That's just like if a client called and was expecting him and they got me, they were okay with it because he had trained me. So we had a lot of talks about, well, this is the way I would handle that. And I still go to him now on things that I'm like, I don't even know what to say to this person. And we sit down and talk it out. So I'm still, even after 19 years, I'm still learning from him on how he likes to handle things. And I don't think, in the beginning, there were things I probably overstepped on that I shouldn't. But my thing was, just do it. And if it's wrong, he'll explain it. He didn't get too upset over things because I did kind of know what I've been a personal assistant or an executive assistant for different people. So I kind of know what my boundaries are. So we just talk it out, and we have from the start, well, how do you want me to handle that? How does that look? Sometimes where the problem could be is in a planning thing where I'll say to him, and it may come off a little snide sometimes, but I'll go, do you know how long that's going to take? Because he doesn't sometimes see how long it's going to take. He knows what the end result is. And then I walk it through in my head. And so then we talk about it and figure out if it is worth the time to proceed at a certain time on a certain item.
I love that. To sort of recap what I just heard, though, is you feel safe and comfortable to push, and you know that the relationship is strong enough that you can say anything. And whether you guys agree or not, at the end result, you don't mind saying, wait a minute, that's not going to work, or wait a minute, I'm going to wrestle this out of your hand because it doesn't make sense for you to do it. It makes sense for me to do it. Or have you thought about this, and this, because of the way your brain works, where you're planning and executing. He's
a very
visionary, and you got to get it done.
He's a very patient man. We have been accused by a coach at one point, not anybody recently, but that we were in each other's, I forget, contaminating each other's surfaces. And I was like, I don't understand that, because we always work really. Yeah, I was like, that's horrible to say.
I was in your box. I would come into your work area, or you'd come into mine.
Yeah, but that's sometimes, we sometimes, I wouldn't say recently, but in the past few years, we've had to go, wait, are you working on that? Because I was just going to do that. He sees my email, I see his. So on client things, it could be, oh, he started working on comps, and I'll say, well, wait, that's my job. I'll do that. That's the way we've always worked, and it's worked for us. And when somebody said that to us, I was like, wait, but if it works for us, it may not work for everyone, but if it works for us to look at what's on the day and then divide it up and go about it that way, then it works. If it's not broken, we don't need to fix it.
And Alivia, to go back to your question, and it's important from my perspective that she sees things one way, and I remember things differently. Like, I had no idea what she was talking about. She's like, you're not sharing. Why won't you let me do my job? How come I can't? I'm so confused. And I was like, what are you talking about? I share everything. It's taken years for me to realize that I was unconsciously incompetent in my ability to allow leverage into my life. And I think that is, I think the difference is that she was patient enough to, she has 4 sons, okay? So she was patient enough to teach, okay, incrementally how to use leverage and how to give things up. And she would put it into bite-sized portions for me to understand. And she'd say, ask a question like, well, do you understand, just so I'm clear, do you understand how long it will take to do X, Y, and Z? And I'd say, well, I don't know, a couple hours. No, it's going to take a week. I'm like, what do you mean? And then she would educate me a little bit. And then she'd ask another question like, well, if you don't mind, can you just give me this? It's off your plate. You can go focus over here. And can we come back and talk about this tomorrow? So you asked about a strategy, Alivia, and that was a strategy I don't know if she did it on purpose or it was just natural, but I look back at those days and I'm like, that's how she taught, because she had to teach me. And that takes a while for me to admit that she was the one that was teaching and I was learning.
So here's a kind of observation. Definitely, Karl, you said, hey, I needed help. I needed an assistant. I got Sherrie. I literally answered, she answered my ad. So she started out as an employee. It's clear that it's evolved where you are true business partners. And I'd love to hear, in your words, both of you, I'm going to ask you first, Karl. What is the difference in your mind between an employee relationship and a partner relationship? Like, what's, when did you sort of wake up and realize you guys are partners, and what does that mean versus boss and employee?
It was at 11:53 a.m. on 2000. I'm kidding. So it's never that, oh, here it is. It's one of those incremental changes that you kind of wake up and you go, oh, wow, look what's happened. And it had to do with the employee mindset is, I want to do my job. I did my job. I want to make more money. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And the business relationship is, it goes from I to we. I've always had a challenge. I always talk about, I'm talking about me. And it's about us as a team, as a business. And as we developed the business, it was, how can the business grow? And then, of course, there was the challenges of when you, and that's a whole, we're not even going to get into that, but that's a conversation of you keep someone as a part of your business relationship for 19 years because you do treat them as a partner. And when the business succeeds, everyone succeeds. Okay, it can't be, oh, it's all about me. And so that everyone has different paths to that. But that is, she has several hats. One is operations, and the other hat is this is my team. It's not just, it's in my name. Yes, I'm technically the owner, but it's not me. It's really the whole team. And Sherrie has led that beautifully.
I love that. And Sherrie, how would you answer that question? The difference between a manager-employee relationship versus true business partners?
I think you have to go into it with an open mind. There are people I've known through my whole work life that have said, I would never do that job, or I would never degrade myself and be someone's, back in the day it was called secretary, where I thrived on it. I loved it. I loved being able to, making the big decisions, let Karl make the big decisions. I'm just here to do whatever you tell me to do, and through the years, I've learned from him. I've watched him take impossible transactions and turn them into, gold and close without a hitch. And I've always told him I've been fascinated watching him. I know that sounds weird, like, watching somebody sell, but I didn't come from a sales background. I always came from assisting in financial planning, or I was in a claims, an insurance claim. So I was always in a task-filled office environment, where when I got into real estate, there is no task every single, well, there are, but there's not, you've got to be more creative. Every case is different. Every transaction is different. Where, some jobs, it's like, you do this it's kind of like a VA. They come in, they do their records every day. They do this every day. In order to grow, you have to be able to take on more responsibility. You have to be able to get out of your comfort zone. And I do it every single day. And, but I learned from it. And now there's some things that I would never do years ago that that was kind of fun. So I think that's what helped me rise up, to where I am in the team now, is that I wanted more responsibility. I wanted to be able to handle. I wanted to be able to problem solve. I'm not at anywhere close to the way Karl is, but I'm getting there day by day. So Karl, your job is safe.
And Sherrie, I'm curious, you mentioned the past roles that you had where you were sort of in that like more traditional executive assistant type role. And that can be what some people look at when they come into real estate and they function in a position like yours. And so what was the difference in how Karl showed up for you that made you want to grow into something more than just like completing the tasks and checking the emails versus the other positions that you had held prior to Karl?
I think it was just like watching him with these transactions and watching him handle these clients. And I mean, I've seen just like the absolute worst type of personality nobody can get along with, that Karl seems to be able to get along with. And I'm fascinated like that, because most of us would have gone, oh, I would have asked him to leave, but Karl just like, well, let's talk about it. And so I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by I'm fascinated by the real estate. I'm fascinated by the problem solving. I'm fascinated to watch people finesse people. And it's genuine. It's not like acting, it's genuine care for how to solve a problem. And I go to him all the time with, hey, well, what about this? How would you do this? How do we do that? Or a team member will come with something and you need to talk to Karl, and I'm going to sit right here and listen to it, So that's what it is. It's the fascination by it all. So it's never dull and boring. Especially when you get to a certain level on ops and operators, it's like there are a lot of issues every single day. But it's how we work through the issues that makes you want to come back the next day. And really, 19 years doesn't seem like 19 years. We've had to pivot so many times on so many different things and so many different markets that we get comfortable in pivoting and learning that and learning that together, that it doesn't even seem 19 years went by really quick.
Well, I'm hearing a acknowledgement that you both handle your business, the business differently based on your strengths. But I'm also hearing respect, a huge respect for each other and what your strengths are. And instead of, so acknowledging that and finding ways to make sure that everyone stays in their strength zone and supporting. You guys are both supporting each other. One thing that I noticed with, a high DI and a high SC is sometimes time in terms of how we approach a task is different. A high DI is like, oh yeah, we can do it. It's done. I committed, we can list that thing. It's Wednesday. We can be live tomorrow or Friday. And the SC is immediately goes to can't. And here's why, and here's the 17 things that need to happen. And I think in a great partnership, just listening to you talk, my guess is Karl gets Sherrie to go way faster than she might feel comfortable. But at the same time, Sherrie probably gets Karl to slow his roll a little bit and think about things before committing, because of the fact that you've been, you've got the checklist, you've got the process, you have the testimonials of, remember when we did that with the Millers and how that worked out? We need to have a buffer, right? And so I love that yin and yang, because I think both of you are probably going faster than you want, and then also slowing down maybe more than you want based on your personality style, and it makes for a better outcome for your clients.
And initially it's something like this. You promise them what? Do you realize it's Friday at 4 o'clock? There's no, Karl, what were you thinking? And then he goes, oh, it's okay. I told him next week. He'll throw it out there first and then watch me explode. And then
he just wants to mess with you.
I don't do it intentionally, and I think that this is really important, Sarita, in the sense that because of our differences in our personalities, you nailed it, Sarita. You nailed it. Sherrie's attitude is, okay, this is what has to happen. I have to go do this. So she'll say, oh, and I'll just say, we're going to do this. And then walk out of the room thinking, this is great. We're going to go do this, and then we're going to do that. And this is going to be amazing. And man, it's going to be the best month ever. I can't wait. Who cares if it's the 18th of the month? Let's get it all done in the next week. Let's go. And then, so I'm excited about the big picture. And in the beginning, I didn't understand that what I would do to her when I dropped that on her, I was like, what's the big deal? We'll adjust. It's no big deal. We'll just adjust. But her brain didn't work like that. Her brain was like, this is now what we have to do. We have to do this, but then it's actually impossible. And so there were some tears, and there was some upset stuff. I mean, it's to pretend that this was, oh, it's just so easy. That's bullshit. Okay. There was some hard times. And we both learned how to exactly that, Sarita, go into the area that I'm not comfortable in, which is like, oh, we have to think this through. We can't just do it. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah, and I want to be clear in that I'm not ripping on Sherrie saying she can't do something. It's basically the optimist personality, and it's not pessimist, it's more realist, right? Like he's optimistic on, we're going to flip the coin and we're going to get heads every time. And Sherrie sees all the tails that you can hit, because she's seen them before. So she's realistic. And so then just putting that together. And like you said, I do think that ultimately when you're client focused and you know each other's hearts, then you work through it, right? It's not personal. I'm not trying to give you an ulcer. This is what we're trying to do. And then how do we keep getting better so that we learn from the previous experiences?
Right.
Well, and sometimes it's in the ask.
Yeah.
Like there was something that came up the other day and I don't really remember exactly what it was. And, oh, I know what it is. He goes, I have dumped some stuff on your chair at the office. And I said, the right thing to say would have said, I have some things to go over with you, because dump, I just picture, and then on my return comment to him, not even thinking, was I have a to-do list for you too. And he was like, whoa, let's just call it this. So we're learning to substitute, kind of, and sandwich the issues, like, sure, you did a really good job on this. Next time, could we input this? And it worked out perfect this time. So I see sandwich that compliment in there. Yeah.
Those of you who are watching this, I don't know about you, but I'm getting immense sort of relief watching you that 19 years in, it's not perfect. It's a fun work in progress, but I got to add the word fun. You guys are clearly having a blast, and it makes work amazing when you want to be there. And even though you've probably got problems being thrown at you and your hair's on fire a lot from all the things that you've got going on, and you start your day one way and then it goes completely off the rails in a different direction, but having fun is a huge part of making this partnership work. Just watching you guys, I don't know a lot of teams that have the kind of chemistry you do. And tell me about that. I mean, tell me about your chemistry. Is that something that's gotten better over time? Is that just been luck?
We do put the fun in dysfunctional. That's what we do. It is. We go back a long way because our kids all went to school together. So that's probably where we really had to, we learned to work together in the classroom, with our kids, and then it transferred over to a work life. And so we kind of knew each other's personality. It wasn't like I walked in the door and I didn't really know his personality. I did know a little bit about him. He knew a little bit about me, and we've known each other, Karl, like 25 years now. So our kids all grew up together, same school district. We had the same parents in the same parent committees. So there were a lot of commonalities. But we still learn every day. I mean, it's amazing, even after 19 years, that you still, you think you know every little detail. And we went to a networking thing the other day and we were talking about each other. There were things I had never heard and he had never heard about me. And I'm like, well, that's weird. We worked together all this time and never knew that, so I think it has to be fun. If it's not fun, who wants to go in every day? That's why you guys go in, right? You like the people you work with. You like the opportunities. I mean, if it's not fun, let's just all not do it.
I love that.
I think Sherrie's focused on that in the sense that I'm like, let's go, let's keep going. And she wants to make sure that the team has fun. So she will put on the calendar a team event. We're going to all go play miniature golf at Pop Stroke, and Karl, you're paying for it. I'm like, oh. I had no idea it was $150 a person, but anyway, it was fun. So, but I mean, those are we make certain that we have those opportunities as a team, and then I think it is back to the mutual respect thing. I enjoy working with Sherrie. She's helped me grow, and I think it's a mutual respect issue. And I know the area of the business that she excels in, and it's not my area of expertise. And I go to her every day. This is why, how do we do this? I want to do this. How do we go about doing that? And embarrassingly enough, I still sometimes go, I'm struggling with my calendar a little bit. How are we gonna? And she's like, that's you. You created all these problems, but she'll help me solve the calendaring issue because that's not my strength, right? So
it is true. Like like we've heard in the past, you have this full calendar. What can you cancel off that calendar to free your time up to do what you have to do? Somebody comes in with their hair on fire and you're supposed to have 2 hours of phone calls and it doesn't happen because you had to take care of this issue. So you have to erase. And sometimes it gets replaced, and then sometimes it's like, do I even need that meeting? Can that meeting wait? Is there something that can be done on the phone or on a Zoom versus a face-to-face? So
Let's talk a little bit about scale. Your team, with regards to your working relationship, you guys share the same office and you don't have a large team. If and as you grow, do you find any limitations with regards to how you sync up? Like right now, some of your syncing up and how you work together is based on proximity, right? You see each other's emails, you probably even overhear each other. Is there a point where you realize like you might have to change your systems if you get bigger, or intentionally you don't want to get to the point where you ever get so big that you can't work the way you are? I mean, talk to me a little bit about scale based on your relationship today and where you're going.
You bet. We have that conversation quite a bit. The reality is we do have a small team. We have a team of, I think it's 7. We have 3 part-time agents, 4 full-time agents. And honestly, Karl and Sherrie are player coaches. So we're a small team. And we know where we want to go from a growth point of view. And, there's a big difference between, a 4 to 7 person team and a 15 to 25 person team. They're different. They're different, but they're the same in the sense that, well, what are the tools, what are the systems, and what are the rhythms that we are following and that we're teaching? Like right now, as a player coach, I got to lead by example, and if I'm going to ask the team to go do X because I'm more sales management, Sherrie's more director of operations. Okay. And so we have to put those hats on. We have no choice. Now, as we grow and as our team members continue to develop, then I can easily help that team member that's followed our systems, our methodology, our rhythms. It's easier for that person to then take a leadership role and move it forward, just like Sherrie and I have grown. That's our vision. We haven't done it yet, Sarita, but that's where we were a year ago when we stirred this thing up and changed up how we're doing for the exact reason of how are we going to scale this in the future. Otherwise, you can't, because if it's just the Karl and Sherrie show, that's what it is. It's not going to change.
We've been in a much smaller office to the point that Karl and our first office was like, it was so tight that one of us, if they were leaving, the other one had to scoot way over to get their chair out because our chairs would hit back to it. It was like a broom closet. So now it's not a huge office, but it's much bigger. And then we are really fortunate because our broker has a lot of bullpen space. So outside our door, there are no less than, I think, 16 seats for agents that they want to come in and work. And they don't necessarily have to be on our team. If they want to come in and do call day with us or whatever we have going on, they can come in, they can take up a desk there. And that's just the bullpen area. Then we have phone booths here, and we have like this room that I'm in today, that's supposed to be soundproof. We're gonna find out here shortly. But there is a lot of opportunity where people can come in and do their calls. We do have several team members that are like, and I've gotten like this too, I have to go to the office. If I go to the office, I will do this. If I stay home and work, I've got dogs barking, I've got a cat walking across my computer, and I'm like, I'm better off going to the office at least half a day than trying to get, because it'll take me 3 times as long to get things done at home. That's just my thing.
That sounds great.
I'd like to ask you guys, while we're talking about scale, so oftentimes to give everyone here some context on your team and why we were so interested in talking about you, is that when people think about operations mastery, oftentimes that shows up in different ways. They're like, oh yeah, that team has a lot of staff, they're doing a lot of things, they have a lot of systems. But sometimes if you actually get into the meat of that business, you're like, man, they're losing a lot of money, or like, man, they're spending 50% of their GCI on staffing. Like, that's crazy. And so I think what's really cool about you guys is that you have an incredibly high profitability percentage. You have a very low staffing percentage, and you're also super bought into using systems in order to scale. And so what I'd love to ask is, like, obviously your team has grown a lot since the two of you began in your partnership 19 years ago. And at any point throughout that growth trajectory, have you been tempted to hire on another staff person just to like make things feel easier during the overwhelm? And what did you do, if so, to not do that, to keep your percentages good?
Sherrie, do you want to? We have this battle. I can't tell you how often we have this conversation. And believe it or not, I'm usually the one that says, let's go hire 4 VAs and we can, because I want to get it done fast. Let's go fast. And she's like, well, you need it. Have you ever heard of red light, green light, Karl? Well, we're not in the brokerage, but damn it, that's what we got here. And it's still, it may be yellow, but it's not blazing green yet. Where's the money? Show me the money and we'll go. And so she is she's more like the controller of our business. She's, from a financial point of view, she's paying attention to those pennies and stopping the salesman, you know, the shiny object syndrome. It's so exciting. I want to buy it. She stops me from doing that. And so that is, you know, we have gone there and pulled back. And I think that with our most recent restructure, which is showing in our numbers, we know where we're at, and we know exactly when she gets to when there's a point that we need additional work, it's going to be task oriented, affordability oriented. She's going to bring in a VA to do these 5 things.
We do have a showing agent that helps. His thing is not going out and getting the business. He would rather Karl or I make the phone call, set up the appointment. He'll go do whatever. He'll attend our inspections. He's getting really good at handling other agents, and it's just a matter of time before he, you know, really dives in and really wants to, you know, really learns enough, and he's got his confidence up to go out and do what, you know, Karl does. But he loves doing paperwork. And I think Karl even asked him last week, do you like doing that? And he's like, yeah, I like it. It's, you know.
Or do what you do. I mean, it goes both ways. But I think, Alivia, the reality is when you're small, when you're narrow and tight knit and focused on the numbers, you have to be, and it's uncomfortable. Okay, you have to go. I have to go out of my comfort zone and do some operational crap that I hate. Sherrie has to get out of her comfort zone and do some sales stuff that she doesn't prefer. There's just, if you really want to rock, you have to have, you got to broaden your scope. It can't be, from my perspective, I'm going to hire Sherrie the admin. You are an admin. You stay in your lane. Do not get out of your lane. You got out of your lane, I'm going to get angry with you. Well, then that's never going to change. And the only way to expand that 1-lane highway to a 7-lane freeway is to allow that person to grow and grow and grow. And when they bump up against it and things don't work out, then you have to create a new solution. But unless you allow that growth, you're going to be trapped into spending too much money in the big picture.
So I love that so much. One of the things I didn't say at the beginning of this session is Power Playbooks is designed to give everyone actionable nuggets wherever they are in their business. You could be a single agent, you could be an agent with 1 assistant, you could have a small team, medium team, large team, expansion teams. It doesn't matter. The beauty of our guests, and we're so thankful to have people like you. The beauty of our guests is they share nuggets that we can apply wherever we're at in our business. And so my next question is around advice to that, either that single agent that has a VA, or maybe that single agent that has 1 person doing transactional work or help. What is your advice to take that working relationship? Let's just say it's 1 person doing the paperwork. So they are your operations person. They're still fairly tactical and not a strategic partner. How do you evolve that relationship to become more like you and Sherrie? Is there any tips or advice you would share to that lead agent on how to evolve that relationship?
Yeah, if I could go back to my past self, right, and have an honest conversation and shake me, my younger me, I would shake my younger me and I would say, get out of your way, buddy. Okay, you can't do this on your ego is stopping you. You need help. How are you going to ask for that help? You have someone here that's willing to help you, yet you're telling, not asking. So my advice, if I'm an individual agent and I'm feeling that stress of tapping out, I've got an administrative partner of some kind that is doing fine, but it's like, gosh, if that person could only do this or this or this, they're not going to do that unless you have a real honest conversation. I think we had a point where we took a half a day once and just got in a room, and I said, it was like, this is what I want to do. What do you want to do? I want this business to go here. And how are we going to do this? I really need your help. That was how you can, and that you may have an individual that is unresponsive. Well, then maybe that's the wrong individual for you. Okay. But you're going to have that very honest, transparent conversation depending on your individual personality. But you've got to be able to sit, if you've got that one admin and you want to grow and scale, you've got to say, well, what is it we need to do? And I struggled with that. Like, well, wait, what is the model? They say, oh, follow model. What model? I look around in our market here, there's like 20 different models, all people doing all these guys. Like, what is a friggin' model and how do I do it? And so you got to slow down a little bit and figure out, well, what is it? What is the vision of where you want it to be? And you have to sit down with the person that's going to help you get there and find out what they actually, it can't be just what you think, but what do they think? And what are their ideas? And how do they think we should do this? Because you have to ask that kind of question if you're going to have a partner. Otherwise, you're going to have a task-oriented employee, and that's okay. But you got to accept that you have a task-oriented employee that's going to do the tasks.
I love it. Sherrie, same question from your perspective, right? From in this example, the admin who's working for someone and wants to evolve to a operations partner like you are. What's the advice on how they would go about doing that if they're not where you guys are today, for example?
I think ask the questions of if they feel trapped and they feel like they're in this dead end admin zone, which it doesn't have to be that way to be an ops leader. You don't have to. It's not a dead end job. But I think they need to ask the question: where can I go? Where can I grow? What can I grow into? And make sure that they're on the same page. And yes, in this business, there's a lot of egos on both sides. And you gotta set that aside, and you just gotta do the work. That's it. Plain and simple. Do the work and ask the questions of, what's in it next for me? Is this, because otherwise, I think we see it with, front receptionists all the time, or admin people that are in this job, that it's like, that's all they do, right? There's no room for growth. They're like, after a while, they're like, I can't do this anymore. There's no place for me to go. So I think even on a VA level, I think there's growth. There's things they want to do, and if they really want to do it, they're going to put forth, and they're going to say, this is my dream. This is what I want to do, and then is that realistic for this team? So,
and I would add, I mean, people don't change, like they want to change, but they don't change right away. And so, like, from my perspective, not giving up, right? Like, Karl, I'm going to make fun of you, but just for the example, like if Karl wants to change, but he's still sort of not letting Sherrie do stuff, like let's just say early on, Sherrie has to be willing to arm wrestle it out of him. If you try 10 times and then you just say, you know what, I tried, I don't care. It's 5:01. I'm going to clock out. I'm done. But it doesn't mean that Karl doesn't want to do it. It just means he's wired and has some habits and isn't used to letting go, and perhaps has even been burned by letting go. And so I find, for example, even interviewing showing agents or ISAs, I purposely don't follow up as much just to see, are they going to follow up? Are they going to deal with the fact that I didn't spell out the next step? Are they going to take the initiative to look me up and reach out to me? Because that's the kind of initiative I want on my team. And so, just listening to you talk, it's not 1 or 2 or 3 times. It's continuing. I am walking you to your car because I need you to answer this question. And I'm going to stand in front of your car until you answer, right? And then over time.
Familiar?
Well,
Yeah,
Sarita, are you watching us? What the hell? How did you miss that?
Unfortunately, Karl, I'm you in this situation, and it's ugly.
That happens.
That happens a lot. like a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's conversations that, get started at like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm going to my car now. Okay, I'll walk out with you. It's like, okay, here we go.
You do what it takes, right? You do what it takes. And yeah, I just had to make that observation that I think ultimately everyone's heart is in the right place, but habits that are wired and, ingrained, they take a little time to change. And the person that we want is there for the long haul. It's our team. I view you guys as thought partners. I view, even though Karl's got his name on the logo, I view big decisions, he's bouncing it off of you. Hey, should we do this? What do you think? Right? It's we. I catch myself sometimes saying we in my email, like we're on it. And I have to actually sometimes change to I to the client because I say we all the time. He's like, who's we? What are you talking about? And so it's such a we mentality, right? Of trusting your team and your right-hand person. So I love the dynamics that you guys are talking about. In our last few minutes here, just the last 5 minutes before we kind of wrap up, Alivia, do you want to add any comments, takeaways, or additional questions that we didn't cover?
I've got some top takeaways that I think I can add. I think just like, I know we've got people on this call that are both in the operations or administrative role and people that are in the team owner or operator role. And I think there's just such amazing tips on what you can do from both sides, because it really is, it's something that takes effort on both sides. Just like any strong relationship, you can't just have one person putting all the eggs in the basket. Like, it really does have to be a partnership. And I mean, yes, some days, like what you said at the beginning, Sherrie, like some days someone's putting a lot more eggs in than the other person because maybe someone's having a harder day, and that's okay. But it really does take someone like Karl who's able to recognize, hey, I see this person that's really contributing to my business. They're not just a task checker offer. I really want to make sure that they grow and allow input. I think that was a huge thing that you said, Karl, that I love, is because people will stay where they feel like their opinions are valued. And the fact that you allow input and conversation rather than just saying, this is what we're doing, get on the horse or get off, but this is where we're going. I think that's just, it's so powerful. And then Sherrie, on your end, like, it can be very tough as an ops person when you're trying to take something over, when you're not sure what you need to do. It can be a lot easier to just fall into the habits of, well, okay, I'm just going to process these transactions because I know how to follow the checklist. I know what needs to be done. And the other stuff is scary. I don't know what it is. And so I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone. And the way that you were willing to put yourself in the situations where you could absorb knowledge like a sponge from Karl and put yourself out there, ask questions, be willing to take action, even if you weren't sure it was the right thing to do, but you're like, okay, if I mess up, at least I did something. And I just think that the combination of both of those two sets of things, those were some top takeaways that I got from both of you that I hope that everyone listening got as well. Because I think that if you were to do those things in that role that you're in, you really will build a strong partnership with your operations partner or your team owner.
The important thing to know is that we're in a really great community right now, with place and the operators and the ops leaders and everything, because even though we're a team, sometimes you get into your little cubicle and you don't realize that all these people are going through the exact same thing you are. And when I get on my ops call during the week, or he gets on his operations call, you're like, wow, there's other people that had the exact same question I did, or were thinking what I was. And so that's huge. That to me, because there were times that we were like, I don't know, what do you think we should do? So that's been huge for us for the last couple of years. Is, yeah, you can build systems or whatever, but the systems that we now have that we're building on, where we didn't invent the wheel, and the fact that people are throwing questions out there, the same questions we have. So it's huge for me.
I love your humility. Every time you give credit to others, but you're an absolute badass. And I think you both are such a gift to each other. because you both know your strength zones. And while you probably challenge the heck out of each other and drive each other crazy, you also, because of your strength zones and admiring and respecting each other and what they bring to the table, you together go way further than you would individually. Karl has the massive responsibility of the team on his shoulder with his name on it. Meanwhile, Sherrie has servant leadership as her heart and doesn't have the ego to have her name in lights. And she's there getting excited and fulfilled by seeing her ability to make Karl's life easier and the team's life easier. So it's such a perfect combination. I do think, while it's easy to watch this and go, I just want that. One, it's luck finding the right person, but then you guys work at it every day. And you don't take it for granted. So thank you so much for sharing with us your tips and tricks. I feel like this might be the beginning of one of the ones where we have an encore a year from now, and we hear how, make sure you guys are still alive and haven't killed each other. But to hear how you've taken the team even further, right? Because it's, I love that you guys are playful and you're working hard and you kind of keep each other in check in your own way, which is a beautiful thing. And with that, if there's any other questions, I've been kind of watching chat, but it's been a fantastic session. This will be available on replay for everyone that's registered. And I just want to thank Alivia for joining us today, and Karl and Sherrie for your just candid, open insight as to what's working, what's not, how you failed your way through this, and where you're at. Thank you for sharing and being so transparent. And we all learned from you. And I think we'll look back on some of these examples when we catch ourselves frustrated and realizing that, hey, success leaves clues. You aren't reinventing the wheel. We can actually reach out to you when we have questions and reach out to others in the same situation and figure this thing out together. And with that, that's a wrap this week. We are going to be on the next Power Playbooks is Wednesday, July 10th. And stay tuned for our speakers and our topic. We're so thankful for you to join us. And if you find value in these sessions, please tell a friend. We'd love to have more and more people join in, because our goal is to continue to deliver fantastic content that you can apply and take away to your business today. Thanks again for watching, and have a great week.